647 days from today, the U.S. Olympic team trials will take place in Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, I was just looking up online a little while ago, is known as the gateway to the West. But for 8 glorious days from June 26th to July 3rd, it will be the gateway to the Olympic Games for the 3rd time in a row, and a gateway to the Rio Olympics in 2016. My name is Rowdy Gaines, and we are live from Jacksonville, Florida, to announce the time standards for the 2016 Olympic team trials. Because of that incredible tradition of excellence that USA Swimming has had, think about this for a second. 58 years, United States Swimming has been the #1 swimming country in the world. 58 years, since 1956. And because of that tradition of excellence, as I mentioned, I think the Olympic team trials is the single most exciting event and most intense event on American soil. We have an incredible broadcast for you today with some very special guests. But we're going to kick things off by introducing the Executive Director of USA Swimming, the longtime Executive Director, 17 years at the helm. Please welcome Chuck Welges. So, we were just talking about this off stage. The trials has evolved into something pretty amazing. Did you have any idea when you first started 17, 18 years ago that it would turn out into this great spectacle it has become?
Well, Rowdy, I'd like to say absolutely, of course, but the reality was a little different. My first trials was the 2000 trials in Indianapolis at the natatorium, and what I saw in that event was just an event that was busting at the seams. I mean, it was a sellout crowd. I think there were even scalpers outside, and there was going to be a delayed broadcast that weekend, and the deck was packed with athletes and coaches, and it was just an event that wanted to grow. And we were in what was arguably the best facility in the country, so we knew to grow we had to do something different. And that's kind of what led us to start thinking, what can we do with this event? And that led us to the big jump in Long Beach in 2004.
And think about the event here we are today. First time we've ever announced live the trial standards. Tell me a little bit about that and the growing evolution of the sport itself, outside of the pool.
Well, those of us who work on this every single day, we're not just swimming geeks, we're also sports fans. And so we look at what other sports are doing, and we want to be as good, if not better, than other sports. And so I think the things we're doing now with trying to develop new content, and it might start small with a little webcast, and who knows, in a couple of years we could have this on television. So you're going to see us doing a lot more of this, finding ways to develop content that we can push out to help spread the gospel about our great sport.
Well, speaking of content, let's get this underway. What we've done is we've put a number of events, all 26 events in the bowl, in the fish bowl, and we're going to have Chuck pick one out, and we're going to announce the very first one to get us off to announce the time standards for the 2016 Olympic trials. So go to it, my friend.
Where this all comes from is, if you're in my shoes, one of your idols is David Stern. And so they would have the draft, and he would always kind of announce the #1 draft, and then he'd step aside and let everybody else take care of the real work. So this is the ceremonial first pick.
There you go. And he loves David Stern.
Women's 200 backstroke.
What a great event to start. I see Margaret Holzer there in the background. Of course, we've got Elizabeth Beisel right in the front row. What a great event to start with. And as you see, the time standards for the 200 backstroke is, do we have the trial cuts? There it is, 217.99.
No, Rowdy.
Oh, sorry. 217.99 was 2012. 216.59 is the time standard for the 2016 Olympic trials for the 200 backstroke. About a second and a half faster than it was in 2012. Chuck, thank you very much. We appreciate your kicking us off, and now we get to introduce some great guest we have on our panel to take us through the next few events. For the past 3.5 years, he's been USA Swimming's national team director since 2011. Prior to that, he was the head coach for the Arizona Wildcats. Go Wildcats. 22 years, 2 national titles. In fact, 2 national titles the same exact year. He won the men and women the same exact year. He's also been an Olympic coach 2 times. Please welcome Frank Bush. Next on the list, I called him my Holly Hunter. And you only have to watch broadcast news. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch that movie. You see me commentating at the Olympics and all kinds of different events for swimming. He is the man that has talked in my ear for the last 20, 30 years, and he is the all-knowing guru of swimming. He knows more about swimming in his right little finger than I do my whole body. He's also the Assistant Executive Director for USA Swimming. Please welcome Mike Unger. So guys, let's take us through the 200 backstroke and what you think are the top names to look for as we head into the next 4 years.
Well, thanks, Rowdy. You take a look at that top 8, and Frank, that's a pretty stealthy group. What are your thoughts when you look at those 8?
That's a great picture of Beisel. That's what I think. Well, we were very fortunate in London to win the event with a world record for Missy, and Elizabeth was 3rd. So with Elizabeth Pelton and some of the new talent that we have coming up, I think the 200 backstroke is something that I feel very good about.
All right, 200 backstroke. As you see, Elizabeth Beisel. By the way, when you see the yellow portion, the highlighted portion, those are the 2 athletes that represented the United States in the 2012 Olympic Games. And not all events will obviously have 2 highlighted names. But next, we'll take us through the women's freestyle events. But before we do that, I know a lot of questions have been asked, Mike, about how do you figure out these time standards? What do you do, and what's the process of going through that?
Well, Rowdy, this is about a 6 to 8 month process that we go through. There's a lot of number crunching. Lanny Herr, we joke, but Larry Herr from our staff, who does a wonderful job, and Anthony Boer. Those guys are crunching numbers. And essentially what we do is we go through, we look, we have sort of a set number, a goal number that the steering committee that Frank works with has come up with, and that number was 1,300 to 1,400. So when we put the time standards together, it's an inexact science, but what we're trying to do is figure out, okay, the qualifying period starts this time, July 30th of 2014, the first day of the Junior Nationals. But as we go forward, how many more are going to make it? So you've got all the rankings and all the times and looking at ages of athletes and a bunch of different things. And that's what we do to try to figure out where how the standards will be set.
But do you sit down and say, and talk with Frank and the committee and say, we want to have 1,300 athletes, or do you do it based on times that were developed in 2012? Like the NCAA's, how they take the 16th place time or 24th place time and they base it on that.
A little bit of everything. I mean, I think first, steering back a couple of years ago set the goal of having 1,300 to 1,400 athletes. They like it so that they have a larger meet where athletes who are perhaps a little bit younger might get a great experience. They may only be 88th place or 63rd place. Right. But when they're younger at the first trials, but maybe they're making the semifinals in the next trials and making the finals in the third trials, those type of people are making, and they're getting great experience early on. So we'd like to have a larger trials than a smaller trials. And there's obvious reasons. It helps fill the venue and things like that. But that's the first step. We then take through and look at the standards, and we look at number of unique qualifiers. We try to have a balance between men and women, try to have a balance per event, variety of other things, and so that's what we're looking at when we set the standards.
How many have qualified up to this point?
So right now there's 400 men and 356 women that have qualified. There's 756, And generally, in every event, there's between 51 and 2 and about 63, I think, is the number athletes qualified at this point. So essentially, you have about 7 or 8 heats that have already qualified for the event. Now, you don't know they're all going to swim the races, but you have a general idea that they will.
So you're expecting a lot more athletes to qualify over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the goal
Double
is
that
if we've got 750 in right now and we're looking to have another 500 athletes in, I think we've set ourselves up to do that.
Right. Well, great. Let's start it off with the 50 freestyle, the women's 50 freestyle. The 2016 Olympic trial cut is 26.19. That's exactly 0.2 of a second faster than it was in 2012. You see a lot of familiar names on this list, guys, and you also see a lot of new names on this list. 25/100ths of a second separates the top 4 swimmers, so this is a tight race going into this next 2 years.
And a couple of the young girls, Simone and Abby, are both under what it took to make the team in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So that being said, I think we have a lot to look forward to. In the next couple of years, all sorts of things are going to be happening, I think. It's obviously the goal of the states to be the top relay teams in the world. It's a relay that we haven't won, and we want to win that relay. So for us, we're pushing sprint events, so it looks like I think we've got a good future.
Well, let's get to the 100 freestyle, because you talk about relays, and that's where the key strength of the United States has always been in relays. In the 100 freestyle, the Olympic trial cut officially is 56.49, a little faster than the 50 freestyle, 0.7 of a second faster. And again, you see that familiar name, Simone Manuel, leading off the way, having the fastest time in the country this year, 53.25. When you look at this, I'll start with you again, Frank. When you look at this list right now, you feel good going into the next couple of years as far as the United States goes, especially on that relay where we're talking that real true country strength?
Well, the Australians have set the bar high.
Right.
And we were fortunate to win the World Championships in that relay last year. So there's no question that if there's one thing the Americans know how to do, they know how to relay up. So do I feel comfortable? I don't think you ever feel real comfortable when it comes to a position maybe 24 months in advance. But as I look at the people that we have and the possibilities that we have, I feel like we'll be just as competitive as anyone else in the world.
Rowdy, I want to point out, if you look at this, 54.4 was 6th last time at the trials. So if you look up on the list, Amanda, we are at 7th right now at 54.4. So I think with two years to go, I think the event's going to be a lot faster than it was back in 2012.
And another point to make when you say that, 6th place, they do take the top 6 swimmers. Most likely, they will take the top 6 swimmers to the Olympic Games. So this is a very important event as we go through these 100s and 200 freestyles, that you get in the final, you got a real shot of making the Olympic team. So that leads us, again, to another great relay event, the 200 freestyle, the 2016 Olympic trial cut, 2:02.39. Just 0.8 of a second faster than 2012. And leading the way are 2 very familiar names in USA swimming and around the world, Katie Ledecky and Missy Franklin. Mike.
Well, I'd say, Rowdy, that you'd also need to add in there Allison Schmidt. I mean, she's 5th on the list right now, but she's also certainly someone we need to think about as the race shapes up for Omaha in 2016.
You don't want to ever count out the Olympic gold medalists.
No, not at all. And I think with those 3 people, I think that really sets the U.S. 4x2 relay up, Frank, in a very good position.
Absolutely. They dominated. We won again at Pan Pacs. Katie is swimming significantly faster in the 200 now. I feel like that's a relay that really sets the culture up of what our team is all about.
Going into the 400 freestyle, you're talking about Katie again, the top qualifier right now up to this point, but the 2016 Olympic trial cut, 4:17.99, 1.4 seconds faster. As we go up in these events, obviously, you're going to see a little bit more cushion as far as what it was compared to 4 years ago. But again, Katie Ledecky way out in front, 3:58.3 with that world record that she broke this summer.
Well, we have 56 athletes already with the cut, so that's, my math is good. I think that's 7 heats right now. But you mentioned Ledecky. She's what, 5-6 seconds? She's 5 seconds ahead of the international field, but she's 6 seconds ahead of the rest of the Americans. And right now, she has 4 of the 5 fastest swims of all time. So she's certainly the dominant swimmer in this race.
You know, Rowdy, she is the only female that has a male Olympic trial cut.
Say that. Can you say that again, please? I can't quite grasp that.
Katie Ledecky is the only woman that has a male Olympic trial cut.
Unbelievable.
So I think she's retired some men.
Does it make it? I know you don't coach her on a day-to-day basis, but you've coached so many athletes that have reached a certain level. Does it make it difficult sometimes where you've set the bar so high for yourself? And she did this summer. I mean, what do you do for the next 2 years to keep that motivation going? I don't think it's going to be hard for Katie, but as a coach, how do you keep those athletes motivated?
Well, Katie is unique, and she's someone that keeps things in perspective in a way that not all athletes do. She has a great coach with Bruce Gemmell right now, and they have a great relationship. I think it's, we had a long conversation about whether Katie should swim the 1500 this summer, and Katie told Bruce at the meet, I'm swimming it. So, and what happened?
Glad she did.
She swims a time that would have been 6th at the 2000 men's trials. I just looked that up. So I think it's up to expectations can be the greatest killer of an athlete, and I think as long as you keep things in perspective and the competition aspect drives you, you're in good shape. But when it's constantly thrown in front of your face that you have to go faster, you have to do the next thing, you have to do the next thing, those athletes are already feeling that and they're already trying. So keeping it in perspective is key.
Well, another event that you need to really keep in perspective, and that's the 800 freestyle. That is the next event for women's. And the 2016 Olympic trial cut is 8:49.99, about a half a second faster than it was 4 years ago. And again, Mike, you see that familiar name, Katie Ledecky, 11 plus seconds ahead of everybody else, although it is wide open after that.
It certainly is, and I know that Becca Mann is the second swimmer at the World Champs next summer, and
great open water swimmer.
Right, and Sierra Runge had a great summer to go 8:24. It's interesting, this time standard, this was the smallest event at the 2012 trials. So when we looked at the time standards, this one was a hard one because we wanted to make sure we had enough athletes in the field. It didn't improve by much. I mean, a half second for 800 free is not a lot of, that's not very much.
Well, it actually, I mean, if you go back to the 100 freestyle, that's 7/10 faster than the 800, which is only a half a second faster. It's pretty amazing.
Right.
So
100 freestyle might be crying a little bit about that, but that's, we have to look
hopefully
at
it'll give some more athletes a chance to get in there and qualify.
Well, it'll be still a competitive field for sure.
Well, that takes care of the women's freestyle events. Again, Frank Bush, thank you. Good luck the next 2 years. Any words of wisdom over the next 2 years you'd like to share with everybody to kind of leave us with a final thought?
You know, I just would kind of like to follow up on what Chuck had mentioned about where we are in our sport and how we're beginning to work on fans outside of the sport. And it's interesting to me to see that is beginning to develop. So I think in Omaha, we're going to see not only friends, relatives, and parents of our athletes, I think we're going to see some unique people that have never had that experience before. So it's the next couple of years to say they're exciting would be an understatement. So I know the athletes are looking forward to it. All the coaches are, when they see these times, it just makes wherever the bar is in American swimming for coaches and for athletes, they seem to achieve it. So for me, it's fun to, anything I can do to help them out is my call, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years.
Good luck, Coach.
Thanks. Okay.
We'll be back in just a moment with the men's freestyle events. Stay tuned.
I'm passionate. I'm dedicated. I am an alligator.
I know versus there. I probably like that.
And my earpiece.
Swimming introduces kids to the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. And a healthy kid is a confident kid.
Joining us now for the men's freestyle events, he was the past USA Swimming president from 2006 to 2010. 38 years he's been the head coach of the Berkeley Aquatic team somewhere in the Northeast. I don't know where. I think it's Jersey, right?
It's Jersey.
In New Jersey. And before that, the head coach of North Carolina. So please welcome everybody, President Jim Wood.
Thank you.
All right. Men's 50 freestyle. The Olympic trial cut for 2016 is 23.29, exactly 0.2 of a second faster than it was 4 years ago. The top 4 swimmers separated by 33/100ths of a second. I don't think there's any more anticipated event on the men's program, at least from Brazil's standpoint, than the men's 50 freestyle with Cesar Cielo, the Pan Pac champion Bruno Fratus, and of course, we've got some pretty good athletes ourselves.
Well, Rowdy, I think that this field is very interesting because you look at the top 8 and you've got some experienced veterans. And then you have a 18-year-old like Paul Powers that's in there as well. And we were noting before there's 15 years difference between the youngest and the oldest in this top 8 right now. So it's a very experienced field, but nice to have a young guy coming up.
What does that do for the dynamics of this event going into those trials? Do these guys get together? Do veterans like Adrian get together with those youngsters and try to groom them along, or does he not want to have anything to do with them?
I would think they'd help them out, but probably help them out more after the trials are done.
Right. Once they make the team.
Yeah, I think there's definitely.
But maybe for the next couple of years on national teams.
There's definitely grooming. Our elite athletes at the top level have always been very, very helpful to the up and coming athletes and the new athletes on the team. And and Anthony, Adrian, Cohen, the 3 guys on the top of that list are exactly those kind of athletes. Yeah.
Which leads us to the 100 freestyle, where you're going to have to talk about a total team effort, and that is the 100 men's freestyle. The Olympic trial cuts for 2016, 50.69, 0.8 of a second faster than 2012, and leading the way is the Olympic gold medalist Nathan Adrian.
Well, this is an interesting standard. This was a hard one that we did, and if you've been around swimming a long time, somebody goes 50 point in the 100 free, you go, they're good. They can stand up and swim. And a coach asked me 8-10 months ago, what's the cut going to be? And I said, well, if you go 50.5, I think your athlete's going to be okay. And I was just guessing, but we came pretty darn close on that one. So it's a pretty hard standard at 50.6. Really
close. And Coach, when you look at this list and you look at the top 5 or 6 swimmers, you made a good point about these top 5 swimmers are pretty good.
I love this. You look at numbers 1 through 5, and every one of them have won an individual gold medal at the Olympic Games.
Enough said.
Freestyler, Michael Phelps, many events. Anthony in the 50 free back in Sydney, I believe.
2000.
Ryan
and the next 2 are
Matt Reavers.
The next 2 are Olympians as well.
That's correct. The other thing I like here, if you don't mind, it's that you'll find out when you go through the trials the ability to be in that top 6, how important that is. Because as you said earlier, how important relays are to this country. And the great thing about this and the 200 free is you may finish 5th or 6th, but not know till the last day whether you made the team. Because you may need a double in the 50 free or 1500.
But
very exciting. Yeah.
Most of the Olympic trials we've had, at least in the past, those doubles have always come through, right? But it is still a bit of a sweating bullet. But we've never had that because of our country's strength. We've never had that problem before.
Right. I think those men in 1992 were sweating. There were 25 of them that made the team. So that's the most we've ever had, at least in recent memory.
But those doubles go down to, are those the last doubles to be picked up, or the 5th and 6th?
6th place in the relays are the last ones.
6th and then 5th before that.
Which leads us to the 200 freestyle for men. The 2016 Olympic trial cut, 1:51.89, exactly 1 second faster than it was 4 years ago. And again, some familiar names on this list and names that look great over the next 2 years as far as relays go.
Right, and you speak about relays, and I think this summer was a very interesting setup for the Pan Pals.
In particular about this relay, the U.S. has won this relay since 2004. They've been tops in the world. But the Aussies had athletes first, third, and ninth going in. And the top U.S. ranked athlete was Connor Dwyer at 10th. So you
would think, boy, that's going to be a hard road for the U.S. athletes to win that relay.
Right.
And
they got more trouble from Japan.
Yeah, in fact, they had a lot of trouble
from Japan. And I didn't realize that athletes swim those times at different times of the year, so maybe it wasn't apples to apples, but it was
a sweat out for certain for the U.S. team this year.
With both the Australians and the Japanese.
So it's going to be a tough road as they go forward.
Yeah, you had spoken earlier about the tradition and whether older athletes help the younger athletes come through and their progression. And I think one of the things that we have super tradition is in relay. And you know when you're at an athlete, you might be that third or fourth person on the relay, you know the tradition of USA swimming as far as winning relays. And most of our athletes have really developed the ability to step up and do that. A couple of things really noticeable in this event. Michael's not up there yet because he hasn't swum at 200 free. The cutoff date, I think, for this was July 30th, correct?
Right, that's
so
right.
He'll be on the list, so he hasn't swum one yet. And we have two youngsters on here, Reed Malone, who has done a great job. That's 19 years old. That's the best time ever that he did this summer. And if you watched him swim, he finishes events. He can finish up that last 100 and the last 50 of a 200 free, which, as you've seen in the past, as we've been successful on those relays, we've had guys that finish off that last 50. And the real youngster here is Tommy Haas, who's only 17 years old, and he's out of Nova in Virginia, and I believe his swim was done at winning the junior Pantax, right? That's right. Yeah.
So a good event there, the men's 200 freestyle. The next up is the men's 400 free. The cuts, 358.69, a little over a second faster than 2012. And of course, we're going to see this name up top and as well as the next event, and that's Connor Yeager from Michigan, 345.3.
Well, Connor's really put himself out in this event. He won the bronze medal last summer in Barcelona.
And he's proven that he's got some speed and the endurance, and it's perfect. This is one of the most strategic events, the 400 free.
When we used to watch Ian Thorpe swim it, and he would all of a sudden, stay in cruise mode until about 250 and then go. I think that changed how people swim the 400 free, and I think you're seeing that now.
Yeah, I think I've watched the top three guys here swim for a long time, and what I'm really looking forward to is this event in Omaha. I think one of the things that we haven't had the ability before is to do great racing in this event in Omaha. When you get to World Championships and Olympic Games, you have guys going out in 150 point, and coming back strong, and we haven't seen that domestically. And I think to make our team, you're going to have to go one of those kinds of swims in Omaha, which I think will really prepare us for what we're going to see in Rio.
We won't talk too much about the international swimmers because this is all about USA swimming. But when you look at this list and getting ready for the men's 1500, the last time the U.S. won a gold medal in this event and the 1500 way back in 1984, 30 years ago. Just you get a good feel for these kids?
I just think we're going to see some international level swimming at our trials. When they swim the races the way it's swum internationally, we're going to have some great swims there, and they are going to just continue that. We're going to have good results in this event.
We just talked about Connor, but another guy moving up the list is Jordan Lomowski, improving some 23 seconds.
From last year to this year.
Which takes us to the men's 1500
Oh, you're already in the 1500. I thought
I haven't talked about it, but you don't see his name up there. But let's go to the men's 1500. 2016 trial cut, 15:49.99, over 3 seconds faster than it was in 2012. And as you said, Jordan's right there in third. And how many seconds faster?
23 seconds. I mean, pretty impressive open water swimmer that's really turning on the pool right now.
Right. And again, Connor and Michael Rookroom, who have had so much success the last couple of years, Jim, they're kind of leading the way. But again, I kind of look at this and I see a good mix of, some veterans like Connor, and then the youngsters, like you said, Wilimowski, and also, a guy a lot of people haven't heard of, but keeps improving, and Burns at 19 years of age.
Yeah, no, that there's a good group here. I think Connor has. Connor Yeager is a Jersey kid, from Central Jersey and Michigan.
I knew you'd put that in there somewhere.
If you guys are going to give me a little grief about Jersey, we got to throw it out. All right, but he he had a phenomenal race at Pan Pacs. You know, beat the Olympic silver medalist, and I think he's made some strides the past couple of years that he won't just be an Olympic finalist, but he's going to be an Olympic medalist coming around.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jim Wood. We are halfway through. We are done with the freestyle events for the women and the men. Next up, the stroke events. And we will be back in just a moment, right after these words.
When I grow up,
I want to be a doctor,
a policeman,
a teacher.
I want to be a champion.
Saving lives and building champions. That's the mission of the USA Swimming Foundation, and we're dedicated to providing support to strengthen our sport from grassroots to gold medals. Our goals are ambitious. We're proud to provide financial support to Team USA athletes and coaches, allowing them the resources they need to train and compete, and to maintain America's ranking as the world's dominant swim power for more than a half a century. In 2007, we launched Make a Splash, a national child-focused water safety initiative.
I want to help you guys learn to swim.
Through Make a Splash, the foundation provides funding to teach kids to swim and be safe around the water. The goal, end preventable drowning tragedies that claim 10 lives across America every day. We inspire future generations of swimmers.
You have to be resilient.
And instill valuable lessons that make a difference.
There's so many times that are going to knock you down and you have to get back up.
When I grow up,
I want to be a champion.
The USA Swimming Foundation. Saving lives and building champions.
Welcome back, everybody. She is a two-time Olympian. She has won 2 Olympic medals in her career, and I will never forget watching her 8 years ago. 8 years ago, can you believe that? As a 13 turning 14-year-old representing the United States at the Pan Pacs. She is a world champion. She is a 3-time NCAA champion. Please welcome the Gator, Chomp Chomp, Elizabeth Beisel.
Oh, thanks.
So we were just talking about, we talk so much about the trials. You're the first person now that has actually experienced that.
Yeah.
Experienced it twice. Going into the 3rd time, can you compare the first one with the second one? It had to be easier, or maybe not. Maybe it was more scary.
It was easier in the sense because I knew what to expect and I knew what sort of crowd I was going to be swimming in front of. But then I sort of had in the back of my mind, if I can make it at 15 and I can't make it at 19, there's something wrong with me. So it's sort of, it's like easier but not easier. But I think 3rd time going around, I'm going to be a lot more confident. I'll know what to expect even more, and hopefully I'll do what I did the first 2.
Well, when you say you know what, you hopefully will know what to expect, that's obviously got a lot to do with Omaha. Mm-hmm. And you have experienced those 2 trials at Omaha. What was it like the first time walking into an arena like that? I know you've been to Melbourne with the great arena there, but had you seen anything like what they did in that city?
Not at all, and especially not for a USA Swimming meet. Normally World Championships is huge, Olympics is huge, but it was such a big deal to have Olympic trials that big because it is just Americans. And it shows how much the sport is growing and how much people are really invested into it now. And it's really exciting because it keeps getting better and better every year. And so.
And you love Omaha.
And I love Omaha. I'm 2 for 2 in Omaha, so hopefully I continue.
Well, let's get started with the women's 100 backstroke. The 2016 trial cut 1:03:39, exactly 0.6 of a second faster than it was 4 years ago. And as you look at that list of names, Elizabeth, you see some familiar names, some familiar rivals there as we get through we just talked about the 200 backstroke, but Missy Franklin 59:38 leading the way.
And interesting, top 4. I know Baker isn't at Cal yet, but they're all Cal Bears, so that's going to be a training group out there in Berkeley. And then what made 59.4 made the team in 2012. So right about where Missy is, but it'll get faster for sure.
Is this an event, Mike, that when you look across the board, we've always been able to go through events as we crunch these numbers going into the trials, especially from the broadcast standpoint. You look at the athletes in there, and you look at Missy Franklin. It's clearly she's number one and most likely going to stay that way, knock on wood, the next couple of years. But does it make it a little tougher being you're chasing kind of one spot?
Well, I think that's happened a lot in our sport. I think we've had a lot of athletes that, for instance, Michael Phelps in the 200 butterfly. There were a lot of athletes chasing one event or one spot. Excuse me. I think that's hard, but I think that also you can only do what you can do for yourself. So you have to. I think as athletes and coaches, they're minding their own business, and they need to know I got to go do the best I can possibly be at that event. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think if you go in with the attitude, there's only one spot. I think that's going to be tough. Yeah, we're going to hit the event in a minute, but the women's 100 breaststroke last time, I think everyone would have put a lot of. We're not betting people, of course, but I think of course not. Rebecca Soni and Jessica Hardy in the 100 breaststroke. Everyone was thinking that, but Bria Larson and Steve Boltman certainly said, well, we can change that, and so they did. So I think that anything can happen at the trials, and I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Well, as we go in the 200 backstroke, a reminder of the 200 backstroke, we went through the trial cuts. 2:17.99 was 4 years ago. 2:16.59 are the trial cuts in 2 years. Very quickly, the 200 backstroke. There's that familiar name up front. It's Bizel. How do you pronounce it? Something like that.
Whatever you want it to be. No, that's a deep event too, and with Pelton and Missy. And everybody else up on the list isn't up right now, but you really can't count anybody out, and that went to show this summer. I mean, who's second? I don't remember who was second. Lisa Bratton was second, or Baker was second, and Lisa
Kathleen
was third.
Baker.
Yeah. Anything could happen. I could slip on a start.
Something crazy
could happen.
Actually, the foot ledges. We talk about the foot ledges. They're being used right now at the World Cup, and so I think that'll actually help a lot of backstrokers not have that worry at the start of the race.
Yeah, it'll help.
I know you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll love it.
All right, the women's 100 breaststroke. The cuts. 11:49, 1:11:49, 0.7 of a second faster than from 4 years ago. The top four swimmers, this is another tight one, as you mentioned, Mike. Top four swimmers separated by only 23 100ths of a second.
This is something that we were looking back at this date in swimming history. And this event, we had our last gold medalist at the Olympic Games, Megan Kwan Jendrick, who won the gold back in Sydney 14 years ago, but it happened 14 years ago today. So that's something good to look forward to as we head to the trials.
105.99 made the team in 2012, but third at the Olympics, this is how deep the 100 breast is. Third at the Olympics was 106.4, and we had top two under that time, so that's pretty cool.
Right, from the trials going to the games.
From trials, yeah, but big shoes to fill now that Reb isn't swimming. Sony's no longer.
You think Rebecca's?
I think she's done.
She's done?
I think she's done. Yeah.
We'll get to another Olympic gold medalist in a second, and I'll ask you if you think she's done as well. But we'll move on to the 200 breaststroke, the 2016 Olympic trial cut, 2:34.99, a second faster than it was from 2012. 2:23.05, Michael Lawrence, who's been so consistent in that event, I guess you might say, over the last couple years, leads the way. Of course, Bria and some familiar names along the way. But, I looked through this list, and a lot of young 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 19-year-old Yanni Zhu, some youngsters in this event as well.
We have 51 athletes so far with this cut. And Elizabeth and I were looking at the standards or the people that made the team back in 2012, 2:23.0, which is Micah's best time from this year, but 2:23.0, which was Micah back in 2012. And I think this is an event that the world has gotten so much faster in. And so I think that the athletes have the work cut out for them.
When Rebecca went those times, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, did you think at watching those times in London that anybody would be able to go faster, at least over the next quadrennium?
No.
I know, I thought the same thing.
And we're almost right there. Yeah. And I think it's because she was so dominant. There was nobody really touching her. And so seeing her win these events by like 3 or 4 seconds in a 200. It was insane. But now we've gotten so much more depth, and people are really filling her shoes. And they're big shoes to fill, but it definitely can be done, especially with a list like that up there.
Yeah. Next up, the women's 100 butterfly. The Olympic trial cut 101.19, about exactly 8/10 of a second faster than 4 years ago. And this is another event that I look at, Mike, anyway, that I see that's wide open. That,
right.
you know, there's not anybody that just jumps off the page like Missy did in the 100 backstroke, or Elizabeth does in the 400 IM or something like that. I mean, this really is wide open.
Well, this race is wide open. There's 21 athletes right now in the U.S. under 60 seconds. But this past year, only one, Kendall Stewart, was under 58 seconds. So it's an event that has 2 spots that are open for athletes to step into.
Yeah.
I know you're such an incredibly versatile swimmer. You swim everything. I mean, we talked about the 200 freestyle and how you've kind of maneuvered your way into that a little bit. Do you ever look at an event like this and say, gosh, it's so wide open, maybe I should swim the 100 fly to get in there?
Coach Troy's out there.
What do you think, Coach? Yes? Thumbs up or down? It might be a little short. But it is a great event, and it is a wide open event, isn't it?
And without Dana, because obviously reigning Olympic
and that's who I was going to mention.
It's sort of one of those things without Reb, without Dana. There's sort of those 2 open spots right now. And I mean, Claire's been on the scene since 2012, and she's been doing great. But, you know, other than that, it is wide open.
I'll ask you the same question. Do you think we've seen the last of Dana?
I think so. I think she's enjoying married life, so.
Those are both answers I didn't want to hear.
I know.
With Rebecca and Dana, so who knows?
I mean,
2 years is a long time. They could change their minds.
This is true. They
here's
have,
hoping
how
they
many
might.
days? 647.
200 butterfly. 2016 Olympic trial cut 2:14.99, exactly 1.5 seconds faster than 2012. And again, another familiar name, Olympian Camille Adams, heads the way.
Well, I think this is an event that's really, the U.S. has stepped up, and the depth has gotten a whole lot better. Very successful summer, with Camille winning the 200 fly in a great race at the Pan Pacs. And I really think that Camille and Katie McLaughlin and Maya Dorado have really all stepped up. They're all ranked in the top 11 in the world right now. So I think the U.S. has set themselves up pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And Camille's win this summer at Pan Pacs was the first international win since Misty Hyman in 2000. So we're getting back there, and it's awesome to see Camille. She's my roommate at these trips, so it's cool for her to come back with a gold medal into the room. So.
And 22 years of age, and a stark difference in age between, if you look at the age ranges in that event, 22 to 14. You've got a young 14-year-old in Cassidy Bayer, so it's definitely a wide open event. Women's 200 IM is next. Olympic trial cut, 2:18.69, 0.8 of a second faster. And Maya Dorado, who had a great summer this last summer, leads the way. Caitlin Leveren's in there, the Olympic bronze medalist, is also in there. And another one that we haven't mentioned, Ariana Kukor, is the world record holder, who might be on the comeback trail herself.
Yeah, Ari's back, training at Trojan. So she's obviously not on that list right now, but she will be, hopefully within the next summer. But yeah, 2012, the time that made the Olympic team was 2:11.3. We already have 3 people under that.
Wow.
So it's already a lot faster, which is awesome.
Yeah, the other thing, Rowdy, with Maya Dorado, a great race that she swam at the Pan Pacs to win. But a lot of people forget that at the World Champ Trials last summer, or a summer ago in Indianapolis, she got disqualified in the prelims in that race. So while she went on to get 4th, you guys were 3rd and 4th in the 400 IM in Barcelona, she didn't get a chance to swim that race or in the finals at Indianapolis or obviously in Barcelona.
So she didn't really get to show exactly what she was made of in that event. I didn't have a great chance to see what she was made of in 2013, so she did got a little bit more of a hint of it in this past summer.
Agree completely.
And only the sky's the limit for her as well.
Right.
Last but not least, I know Elizabeth's favorite event,
The best event.
the women's 400 IM. The trial cuts 4:54.99, almost a second faster than it was from 4 years ago. And of course, Elizabeth Beisel with a 4:31.99 is ranked first. Had a great summer, just off her personal best. And Elizabeth, what about it? What about this event?
This event, I mean, look at this. Top 6 are all under 440, and you really can't count anybody out. Camille was 3rd last Olympic trials in 2012. It's really deep with now Maya coming up, Mel coming up, you know, and Caitlin still, she's, you know, you can't count her out at all. So it's a tough event.
When you flush this event out just a little bit, when you look at the international scene, what do you look forward to the most over the next 2 years when you compete? And this is arguably your best event. I know the 200 backstroke is also a great event for you, but arguably this is your best event. This is your bread and butter.
Yeah, it is. And it's nerve-wracking but exciting at the same time. You know, and internationally there's always somebody else coming up. You know, Yishi Wen's always there. Katinka Hosier's on fire lately. So it's going to be really, really tough. Hopefully I make it in Rio, and then at Rio we'll reevaluate everything and hopefully come back with a medal. So.
Good event. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about the next couple of years. And what are you most excited about at this halfway point? I know you just finished your career at the University of Florida and had an amazing career there with the Gators. But what are you looking forward to the most being a pro now?
Yeah, and I think going pro was sort of like a refresher and a breath of fresh air to just get me recharged, leading up to the next 2 years. And I get to do all these cool things, like I'm going to World Cups in a month that I normally wouldn't be able to do, and just competing more internationally because I wouldn't be able to do that in the college years just because of dual meets and, you know, school and stuff. So there's a lot more freedom and a lot more flexibility with what I can do, and hopefully that experience internationally will help me in the long run.
Well, I know I speak on behalf of the audience here and everywhere around the world watching. We want to wish you all the best in the next couple of years. You're a great representative for the United States, and I know over the next few years you're going to be in my position here. You're going to take my job because I just know how much you want to get into television, and you're just a natural. You really are. You're a great representative. And we'll be back in just a moment with the final events for this program.
Basketball, softball, cannonball. Which sounds the most fun to you? Basketball, softball, cannonball. Which sounds the most fun to you?
How's that?
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for the final list of events, the men's stroke events, and joining us now, Mike and I on stage. He's a 3-time Olympic coach, 12 NCAA championships as the head coach of Auburn University. I'll say a little war eagle there to Elizabeth, by the way. Currently, he's the CEO and head swim coach for Swim Mac in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has, by the way, been the #1 club in the country for the last 3 years for the USA Swimming Excellence Awards. He's coached 47 Olympians along the way in his brilliant career, including being on the Olympic staff in 2012. So please welcome David Marsh. So I asked Elizabeth about her preparations and what she looked forward to the most the next couple of years. And I was talking to you before we get to this list of events. When we went to dinner last night, you were really interesting, and you told me the fact that as of January, it's time to start to ramp up. Yeah, we need to stay consistent over the next 3 or 4 months, but January, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like you need to put your hard hat on because it's time to go to work.
It is, and I don't want to confuse any of the young swimmers especially. There is no time to not start. Really, it starts now. But what you can't deny, especially for the pros that have been around and been to a few Olympics, is that the Olympics is a unique event. The motivation to compete is driven by the Olympics, the motivation to go 4 more years. And the reality is there's guys that have kind of a hard time in between given their full commitment to the process. So what I was telling you last night was I think, at least as far as the veteran professional group I have, 18 months out is full pedal the whole way in. But we've had to do a lot of building up now. And that's great news actually for the younger swimmers where if they'll take advantage of this time, they can make some headway on those veterans that may be lollygagging a little bit or not putting the full pedal down and close that gap. Because as you'll see in the coming times, there's a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are sitting there just outside the 1, 2, 3 slots that if they do a great job this fall, if they stay healthy and do the full program that the coaches have designed and maybe even do a little extra, they can really do some great things.
And that background, I assume, is obviously going to help. I mean, you were telling me last night about the fact that you're coaching these young high school, junior, senior kids that are going to kind of mesh with some of the elite pros here this fall, just to kind of get a feel for what that's all about. Yeah,
in fact, I think probably when you flash up the 100 fly and I saw that my daughter made the cut, that probably made my house a lot more relaxed this afternoon. So,
right.
So I think the thing that happens is that it really is a responsibility. You talked about that before. The older swimmers really need to pull up the younger swimmers. I mean, the USA tradition is that. One thing Elizabeth Beisel probably did beyond winning medals in the last Olympics that made the biggest difference for our team is she was back in the rub down area right before people went up and raced. She would help them get emotionally right where they needed to be. Mostly that means laughing their butts off. But that was, I just remember seeing other countries look over and go, what's going on over in the USA area? Like they're busting out laughing right before they walk up to the blocks.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with a strong tradition and culture that we have that when we get to the Olympics, we make it a swim meet. We don't try to get there and make it something way beyond what it is, truly what it is, which is billions of people watching our great sport of swimming.
Right. That's fascinating. All right, let's get to the men's 100 backstroke. Speaking of an event that's very deep and young and old, the trial cut, 57.19, 0.4 of a second faster than 4 years ago. Olympic gold medalist Matt Grievers leads the way. And again, this we'll get to in the men's 100 fly, incredibly deep, always has been, and such a wonderful event for the United States, Mike.
Well, Rowdy, you say a great event for the U.S. This is one of 3 races where the U.S. has won 5 straight Olympic gold medals. So you go back to '96 with Jeff Rouse, and then Lenny in 2000, and Pearsall 04 and 08, and now then Grievers in 12. That's a great run. And so I think...
And it's not just the quality, but it's also the depth that the United States has. I remember a couple years ago that we talked about the guy that finished 6th or 7th had a chance to medal at those Olympic Games.
The U.S. won 2 for gold, silver in the last 2 Olympic Games. That's really says a lot.
Well, it does, and I think the thing about the tradition of our backstroke, it actually goes back to Adolf Kiefer and Hickox and the neighbor, and just there's a great tradition of backstroke in our country, and I think our guys feel that a little bit. I know when these guys look up to their swimmers, Nick Bowman's grandfather was an American record holder backstroker. So it's one of those events that we take a lot of pride in the United States, and I hope we continue to have that kind of success.
How's he feeling, by the way, Nick Bowman?
Feeling really much better. His shoulder's looking good, and he's looking forward to the coming healthy year. Versus what he had last year. I think Matt Grievers is really still the leader for the USA, and I think we need to really acknowledge the time he's been out front. I mean, when Aaron Pearsall retired, I think we all were like, oh no, because he was the hammer. He would put it together in races, and Matt has really proven to be the guy.
And that's tough to follow a legend, but it just seems like that's been the case in backstroke. I mean, one legend develops right after another one retires.
And there are some young guys we have coming up, and Michael Phelps went 53 unshaved in the middle of the summer this past year, so who's to say he won't move up into the backstrokes? He's certainly capable.
Yeah, which again, getting to staying with the backstroke, the men's 200 backstroke event, the U.S. has completely dominated over the years. The trial cut 2:03.79. That's over a second faster. Again, showing how much better this event has gotten. I guess I'm guessing when an event gets so much faster from a trial cut from 4 years ago, it's because we're faster.
Sure. I mean, and right now there's 53 athletes that have this cut, so it's not a huge number, but it's a very good number, and I think it's going to grow to 80, 90, 100 athletes very, very easily. So this is another great traditional event for the U.S., and we were looking back as we were preparing for this. session today, and this blew me away. Since 1995, including 1995, at Pan Pacs, at World Championships, at Olympic Games,
the biggest
big event
that we
every
have.
year, the USA has had the gold medalist in this event for 20 straight years. So shout out to Trippy Schwenk for being the first of that run of 20. But that's an incredible number.
It's amazing. And you know, we didn't mention the 100 back. 14 years ago today was when Lenny Krasselberg won the 100 backstroke in Sydney. And I hope he's listening in while all his swim school kids can get excited about their leader there in LA.
Before we move on from the 200 backstroke, leading the way, number 1 ranked Tyler Clary, and swims for you. And I know he's a guy we talked about it this past summer at Pan Pacs. That guy's just tough as nails.
He is tough, and I tell you, when he first came in and came from Michigan, and John Urbanchek before that. He has a fantastic smooth backstroke, and he doesn't look like a backstroker. Like if you look at those 100 backstrokers, they're all tall, they're all lean, they all have this kind of a body that's really shaped like a backstroker. You know, he looks like a NASCAR driver. You know, he looks like a guy that could go in an MMA fight, or could do whatever. But what he is he's was taught a great stroke technique by his club coaches over the years. It was reinforced. Very confident, like you said, a great trainer. But we have guys, Ryan Murphy right here from Jacksonville, Florida, and with the Bowles School, and now Cal Berkeley, and Jacob Pevley out at Cal, and Ryan Lochte, who I think backstroke can come back around still. I think we've got a lot of. It's one of those events where there's a lot of future in there. I mean. Jonathan Roberts out of Texas, and Connor's out of Elizabeth's team.
Connor Green from Bluefish.
Yeah, so he's and this is a young event, so this is going to be an interesting event when we get to trials, because some of these young guys are going to improve.
Yeah, which leads us to the men's 100 breaststroke. 2016 Olympic trial cut, 103.69, exactly a second faster, which is much faster than it was 4 years ago. Kevin Cordes, a name that's become familiar on the American scene, leads the way at 59.7.
Brad, give me a comment about the cuts, because one thing about the cuts that I think the coaches in here especially and on the audience can agree to, one of the great things about having a challenging cut for the trials is our youngsters will put a laser on that time now. Once this is released today, they're going to put a laser on that time. They're going to build their training around that goal of getting that time. And we're going to have people who are 2 or 3 seconds off right now. They're going to be able to think about that for the next coming years and know that they need to do the next step to close in, because they're not going to miss Omaha. I mean, we're going to fill the pool. These cuts, not just because these cuts are challenging, but because there's such a nice swell of youngsters. The club coaches in the nation right now are doing a tremendous job of getting these kids ready to move up to the next level.
We talked about that before, where the United States and the rest of the world, for that matter, just has a knack for being able to step up when they have to. I mean, when we had the 2009 suit times, the high-tech suit times, I was one that thought, gosh, it's going to be a generation before any of these times are going to be touched. And that just hasn't been the case. It seems like when we put an Olympic trial cut out there, like you said, they just somehow they focus on that time. They're able to do it. And these world records, they've been able to do the same thing.
Well, I think there's a few events that people say they won't be broken for a while, but a lot of the races, boy, they've either been broken or they've come very close.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Kevin Cordes before. I think there's a guy who he's kind of had a couple of bad knocks the last couple of years and had his goggles fall off. How many kids have had their goggles fall off on a race? But to wait to do it in a final of an international competition is very, very bad luck. But he came back, and what really impressed me so much was going 58.6, David, on that medley relay in a very key spot. And I think I don't know how much relief he had, but I'm sure it was a lot.
I think a lot of demons were exercised when he swam that split for the coaching staff too, and it was just great to see. And Kevin that day he had the chance to do the 200 breast. Well, he didn't do that to step up for the relay, and that allowed I think Nick and Cody to step up for the 200 breaststroke. So it was a big risk for him to some degree to step out of the 200 breaststroke to focus on that relay, and I think he's got a giant future. I think Nick Fink has a giant future. Really interesting guy here is Brendan McHugh. Here's a guy that's his third year law student in Washington and Lee. and swims kind of part-time with the Washington Lead team, and won the 50 breaststroke right against these great athletes, and then looks like he's got a position to be there.
Let's not be preaching part-time swimmer though, right?
Let's not do part-time, but for 50 breaststroke, it probably didn't hurt him. But I think he's committed to training this time, and it's interesting day to day too, because the two British breaststrokers with the vote going on over in Scotland are both from Scotland. So looks like even at the global level, this has not been, the breaststroke events have not been historically, for example, right now we don't have anybody in the top 10 all time in the 100 or 200 breaststroke. As a coach, I think we take that as a challenge. We look at that and say, okay, well, how can we help this to happen? There's a lot of talent here and other guys that aren't on this board that can make that happen. I think we need to take that on and look at that and say, let's go charge in there and get the Eric Chanteau times and the Brendan Hansons and people like that and push them right back into this game.
And speaking of the 200 breaststroke, the Olympic trial cut, 2:18:39. That is almost 2.5 seconds faster than it was in 2012.
Well, right now there's 53 athletes that are qualified, and this was the breaststrokes are very interesting. I think women and men, you end up with, I think if you look back of who's made the team over the years, I don't think you'll find an event or a stroke that you've had more surprises than the breaststrokes. Yeah. And you go through the years, we saw Scott Welts earlier this morning, but I think 6-8 months before the trials, I'm not sure anyone knew who Scott Welts was. Yeah. And he did a phenomenal job in final at the Olympic Games.
Well, think about Daniel Waters. It's 4 weeks before, and this is, the youngsters out there listening didn't need to remember this. 4 weeks before the Olympic trials, he was 109 in a 100 breaststroke at a regional meet in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. A few weeks later, Steve Boltman has him go 102 at the Olympic trials. He makes the team. I mean, the breaststroke is such a technically fine-tuned stroke that you can be very on or you can be very off, and it's a stroke you have to coach all the time. And fortunately, we got some fantastic coaches in our country that'll keep their keen eye on our guys. Yeah.
Men's 100 butterfly. Next on the list, the 2016 trial cuts, 54:79, a half second faster than it was 4 years ago. Top 4 swimmers, another very tight race, and Mike and David, we were talking off camera about this, might be the toughest men's event, 38-100 seconds, the top 4 swimmers.
Well, and there's five Rowdy in the top 10 in the world. Throw Matt Ellis in the top 10 as well. He's now ranked 9th. This event is very, very fast, and the U.S. has had a great success rate in this event as well. Michael Phelps has won the last 3 Olympic Games. That's the only male to win 3 straight Olympic Games in the same event. So pretty impressive.
And you've got a couple athletes in here as well. I mean, how tough is that on a day-to-day basis when you tell these guys? I mean, you're not in an easy event, boys.
Well, it starts by being tough because Michael Phelps is in it. So that, and not that that's one slot automatic, but it certainly it starts really tough that way. Tommy Shields has just improved remarkably, and I think his focus on a tuner fly in the last couple of years has really paid off even at the end of his 100 butterfly. And so I think it's nice to see that, because that sends a really good message out to the youngsters around the country that you need to stay in that 200 fly, because really those top 2 guys are 100 and 200 flyers, and I think that's something that will help us not only this Olympics but down the road to keep messaging that kind of thing. But we're going to be great in this event. I mean, we have a lot of guys that can win 2 of the 3 medals, once we get over there to Brazil. But the real battle is going to be in Omaha. That's going to be the bigger battle.
Right.
200 butterfly. 2016 trial cuts, 2:01:99. That is exactly 2 seconds faster than from 2012. And I shouldn't say another breakout summer, but it seems like he's really starting to find his way swimming long course, and that's Tom Shields and Tyler Clary right behind him.
Tom said, I was talking to him after his meet, and we were talking actually in Gold Coast. We did an interview with him for TV, and we asked him, what surprised him more, the 100 or 200? And he actually said the 100. I would have thought he would have said the 200 because he had such a big drop there, and he finished off the race. He was still 30-point on the last 50 in Irvine and did a nice job. But he thought it was his 100 that was more surprising. So here's a guy that he obviously has done the work, and he's got a plan. He and Dave Durden, they've got a plan, and they seem to have carried out that plan very well.
And then Andrew Celestar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
high school age swimmer, 155. I mean, he's right in the mix right now. And John Flanagan, one of the top coaches in the country, has just done a tremendous job, as has the Nation's Capital group of sending kids on to not waiting until they get to college to begin to make an impact. And I think he can be a player. And I think we're pretty solid in this event, and this is going to be, like we're talking about some of the women's events, this is going to be, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys coming down that last lap all together at trials, and it's going to be who can finish that last 15 meters.
I can just hear that crowd going now.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It gets loud.
Men's 200 IM is next on the list. 2016 trial cuts 205 flat, 205.09, a second and a half faster than it was 4 years ago, and obviously this event has been owned by 2 men over the last 12 years, pretty much, and that's Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte.
Another one where we're noting some of the facts and figures, but this is an event the U.S. has done very well in, obviously. The last 4 Olympic Games, they have 2 medalists in every single Games, even going back to Tom Dolan and Tom Wilkins in 2000 getting silver and bronze. But after that, it's been the Michael and Ryan show. And after this summer watching, I think it's the same way, it's the same tune.
I think it is for trials, and if they'll do the work and do the things they need to do, they're gonna take care of that event, I would think. And certainly Connor and Tyler and Chase are keeping them honest. But who's really keeping them honest is some young boys over in Japan who've really made quite an imprint on the world this past year, and probably would have to be regarded as the top swimmer in the world right now.
Hagino. Kosuke Hagino.
I think that's something that hopefully kind of wakes our guys up, and if they react properly, I'm sure that ship can be righted. But the 200 IM has a tradition of having some of our best swimmers ever in that event. I mean, Gary Hall was in it. The Furness brothers, that one after another, broke the world records. I mean, it's one of those events where it brings together, to me, some of the best athletes in the history of swimming for the United States and really probably the world. These athletes, because it's no longer any version of a distance event. It's pretty much full go the whole way through the race. And you can't really have a weak stroke. You have to, and even the walls are so strategic now that it's a brilliant race to watch.
Well, and that's evident from how many swimmers are breaking 2 minutes now. It's not even unusual to have that happen. Last but not least, the men's decathlon, the 400 IM, the cuts 427.49, exactly 3 seconds faster than it was 4 years ago. And the top 2 names, Tyler Clary, Chase Kalish, 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
Well, those guys are second and third in the world right now, but as David mentioned, Kosuke Hagino is number 1 right now. But I really think that this is the history in this event and is so great for the U.S. And David was mentioning before about the 200 IMers. I think in the 400 IM you have so much of the same thing. The U.S. has a streak of 5 straight events, 5 straight Olympic Games where they've won the gold medal here. So I think it's those guys have their work cut out for them, but there's great tradition here in the U.S.
Well, I think it's an event that most coaches love to coach, and it's folks who have to do a lot of work. They can't have weaknesses, including in their training routines. And I do think we have, certainly with Tyler and Chase, we have 2 of the top candidates. But I tell you what, with some of the young guys, in particular Jay Litherland and Gunnar Benz, that are both swimming for Jason Turcotte at Dynamo. I mean, they've come on like gangbusters, and Gunnar in particular is a great talent, and they're both going to Georgia, and they get there with Jack and see what the Georgia Bulldogs can do with them in a year. Who knows? We could have some younger guys move up into the mix.
This has been fascinating. Thank you guys so much, Mike. I know you and your staff have put in a tremendous amount of work, and again, I want to thank the committee. I want to thank all my guests: Chuck Welgus, Frank Bush, Elizabeth Beisel, Jim Wood, David Marsh, and of course Mike Unger. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of challenges. It's going to be very exciting over the next couple of years. There is going to be a lot of information coming out. Mike, you might want to talk about that a little bit,
Sure.
about the information coming out, about the trials and the tickets and the dates.
You're right. There's just a couple of final points, but the dates of the trials are June 26th to July 3, as you mentioned, in 2016. And tickets and hotels will both be available for clubs and coaches and teams and whoever else is attending the event. will be available in the spring of 2015. And the USA Swimming website will be your one-stop shop for figuring out when those are going to be launched.
USASwimming.org.
USASwimming.org. And that's really the place to go to find all that information. And we'll make sure we're blasting information out to coaches and to clubs so that they know it's going to happen. There's no surprises.
Final thought from you, David. Just curious from a coach's perspective. We got Elizabeth's perspective on trials and what it means as an athlete. You actually experienced it as an athlete as well.
Well, sort of. 1980 with you.
1980. We didn't
compete.
Technically, it was an Olympic trials.
Right.
What's it like as a coach? I mean,
it's the most, honestly, what I love is watching those youngsters make their first trial cut. What a special moment when they just get that first cut, and the reaction and the hugs and the fulfillment you see there, and then magnify that 100 times when it happens at the Olympic Games. And it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned veteran, you know, if you're brand new and you make that team, it's making that first cut, making that first event is a game changer. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is it's the best swimming event in the world. I mean, the last two Olympic trials for me, and I've been all over the world at almost every kind of meet, it's the most exciting, best meet you can go to as a spectator and watch lives change right in front of you. And so anybody that hasn't planned their trip to the swimming mecca, which is Omaha, I suggest they do it. We bring a young group out there and we stay in Lincoln and dorms and then come over for 2 or 3 days with a swim mac group with the little kids, which we think is that important that they get their eyes on the future of what they want to do and want to aspire for.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've been to every trial since 1980 and it is without a doubt the most exciting meet that I've ever been to. It's much better than the Olympic Games.
It really
just from the fact of the logistics alone.
And a lot less expensive.
And a lot less expensive. So if you haven't experienced an Olympic trials, and even if you have, you know what it was like in Omaha the last couple Olympic trials. Please get there. Please support all of our athletes as we head to Rio in 2016. Am I forgetting anybody?
I think we're good.
Larry Herr, where are you, brother? There he is in the very back. Everybody give Larry Herr a big round of applause. Been a big factor in all of this. I can never give you a shout out on air, but I can do it now. So again, thank you so much. Peter Lasser, where's our producer? Our producer, Peter Lasser, back there. Everybody give a big round of applause. Peter has produced almost all of our swimming cast over the years, and we look forward to the future over the next couple of years. We'll see you guys in Omaha in 2 years. Thanks again for tuning in.
Good job.